Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Uncharted 4 Crushing Difficulty walkthrough, and this is chapter 9, also known as Those Who Prove Worthy. And in this chapter I will show you how to get another little bonus trophy. This one is called Trials and Tribulations, I think. And we will very soon be coming up to a puzzle where we have to rotate some discs so we can get 3 crosses and a bucket of water into the correct places. And to unlock the trophy you need to solve this puzzle in less than 10 moves. And I will do it in, I think it's 8? Not 100% sure, maybe it's 6? No, I think it's 8. Either way, doesn't matter, because what does matter is I will do it in less than 10. So if you follow this guide, it will unlock that trophy. Trials and Tribulations. Almost sounds like a follow-up to Trials Evolution and Fusion and Trials of the Blood Dragon and whatever it's called. But here we have the puzzle. We have that big cross symbolizing Jesus. And I think the white one is for Dismas and the black one for Gestas. He's making a guest appearance. Sorry. Horrible pun. But I thought it was a bit funny. But when you go over to the door, you will go into a cutscene where this puzzle resets. And first thing you have to do is take the bucket and go down here into the water and fill it up. And what we want to do is get those 3 crosses into the lit up spaces. And also we want to get the bucket of water up to the top of that big screen. So when we have given the bucket to Sam, he puts it in place and we will get the big turning wheels that we will use to solve it. And let's call these wheels 1 through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, starting from the left. So we take wheel number 2 and we turn it once to the left. And then we'll move over to wheel number 3. And we will move it, I think it's, yes, twice to the left. So, and then we will go back to wheel number 2 again. And we'll turn that twice to the left. So it's, and then we'll turn this once to the right. So once to the left on wheel number 2, twice to the left on wheel number 3, go back to wheel number 1 and move it, was it twice again? And then once to the right, and you will solve the puzzle and unlock Trials and Tribulations. Very easy, no problem at all. And now we have a little downtime. We are gonna do some platforming before we go into... This is actually quite an intense chapter. When shit kicks off, it gets quite hectic at times. But we have a few minutes until that starts. So if you don't want to hear me talking, feel free to skip up to, I think it's around 10 minutes where shit kicks off. So... But anyway, since we have some downtime, we're once again gonna do some platforming and searching through this cave. And using boxes on wheels that for some reason haven't rusted up after being hundreds of years in damp caves. But I was having a discussion today at work with a coworker of mine, which I was thinking... which I am gonna talk a little bit about. And he asked me which is the worst game I have ever played. And that is a very hard question to answer in my opinion. I have played some shitty games. Absolutely. But to say that one of them is the worst game ever, that is quite a tall order, because I have played in my life hundreds of games, at least. I don't know if it's been 200 or 300 and 400 games, doesn't matter. But I went, just to try to get an answer, I looked through my trophy list, And there were some games that I have played on PS3 and PS Vita and forwards that I had forgotten that I had played. And a lot of the games I played on these platforms are very good. Some of them are not so good. But a lot of them that I didn't like weren't for the fact that they were bad. They were just not for me, if you know what I mean. Because just because you don't like a game, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. By the way, when you get up there, you'll go into a little cutscene. That's why you saw a little transition right there. But going through my trophy list, there was one game that kind of stood out a little bit, and that was Terminator Salvation. It was one of the first games I actually played on PlayStation 3 when I got it. I think I bought my first PS3 back in 2010. It's quite easy to look up when I bought it, because I bought it the same day that God of War 3 was released. Actually, I bought the game God of War 3. I bought that insane collector's edition where you got God of War 3 and God of War collection in a Pandora's box plastic thingy. It cost around $200, $220, and what's that, like 180 pounds? At least I remember it cost 2,000 Swedish crowns. I don't know what it is in British pounds or American dollars, but if you want to know, feel free to look it up. And a PlayStation 3 cost 3,500 crowns back in those days, and now it goes for like, which translates into between $350 and $400, and today it's like $50 if you want to buy a used PS3. I'm actually on my second PS3 because my first one yellow lighted. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about, Terminator Salvation is a game that I remember stood out as a terrible game. I played it solely for the reason I got it from a friend. He had played through it, and it was back in the days before I really got into trophies. I started getting a little bit into it. My first platinum was Assassin's Creed 2, because if it's one platinum that people have unlocked, it's for Assassin's Creed 2. Let's be honest about that. It's a very easy platinum to get, and it was a very popular game for good reason, because it was an amazing game. I still hold Assassin's Creed 2 to be one of the absolute best in the Assassin's Creed series. I think actually that what's called Brotherhood, the first expansion, sequel, whatever you call it, was a little bit better, just due to the fact that they had improved the combat system in that game. Because you could do those execution streaks. If you killed one enemy and you immediately turned your analog stick towards another one and pressed, was it square? Ezio would go into an instant execution, so you could kill a whole bunch of enemies in one go, which made combat very fluent, very fun. Also great environment. The only thing I wasn't so pleased about in Brotherhood was that it wasn't as big as Assassin's Creed 2 was. And I think Rome was a really fun city to run around in, but the diversity between the different areas in Assassin's Creed 2 was a little bit better, but the jury, I guess, is still out on whether Brotherhood was considered to be a sequel or just a very big expansion to Assassin's Creed 2. But once again, I digress a little bit. Either way, Terminator Salvation. It was my second platinum. I got up to a point in that game that I was really close to the end. And since I thought it was a shitty game, I didn't want it to be my first platinum. So I was playing that parallel to Assassin's Creed 2. So I put that game down, finished Assassin's Creed 2, got all the trophies. The last one I got was for that stupid trophy. I think it's called Showing the Family Colors.
Hey, nice airtime.
And that is also something I think I talked about in one of my Uncharted videos. Because Assassin's Creed 2, there were 100 eagle feathers you could collect in that game. And if you went with them to your mother, she would collect them in a box, and when you picked up all 100 of them, you would go into a 5-second cutscene where she says, "Oh, thank you, Ezio, for not forgetting about me," or some stupid shit like that. And she would give you... Also, here's a very horrible transition. I'm so sorry about that, but you go into a cutscene and this is where the game kicks off. But she gives you the auditory cape. And auditory is your family name. And you need to put on that cape. And the only function it fills is that when you go into an area wearing it, you will instantly become infamous. So all the guards will chase you, they will be on full alert, shit like that, and you have to wear it in all the areas of the game. And how is that for a stupid fucking trophy? That's a developer trolling you. Right there and then. It's just, let's see what we can get the players to do for a little electric thing going bling and bragging rights towards their friends. But now stuff has started to kick off in this game, and this chapter actually becomes quite difficult from now on. I'm gonna try to shoot these guys with a pistol in a very dusty room from about 100 yards away. This is not something I recommend. I do manage to get a little bit of success, but I think a more effective strategy right here would be to just put your grappling hook around that beam like I'm doing right now and push up. Don't try to shoot them from far away. You will only get frustrated. But what else is coming right now? We'll soon see the release of the new God of War game. Right now it's about 1.5 months until release. I think it will be out on April 20th. And as I said, I have pre-ordered the collector's edition of the game. And I'm gonna try and make an unboxing video of it, like I've mentioned in a previous video. I think it was in chapter 5, 6, something like that. I haven't quite worked out all the kinks in how I'm gonna do it, because my girlfriend has a really great camera. One of those really, I want to take a photo of this single grain of sand on the backside of Jupiter's third moon kind of camera. Costs about as much as a small car or a medium-sized house. But she has volunteered to do the filming. And I'm gonna try to hook up something so I can use her camera to film and use my mic to record as I unbox it. And I haven't started experimenting with it yet. I'm gonna do that this weekend probably. Try to find out if it's possible, and if it's not possible, how will the audio be on the camera? Because it will probably be extremely high resolution, but I'm not quite sure how the audio will turn out. But I'm quite curious about that game, but I read a little bit of a description about it the other day, which makes me a little bit hesitant. Because, as you may know, if you have played the God of War series or you've heard about it, Kratos is the Greek God of War in that series. He gets the role of God of War. and he loses it, and he ends up in a great war against the gods, and he kills them all and condemns all of Greece to damnation, more or less, and a lot of a lot of things like that. But in this new game, he will have moved up here to the northern countries, or the Norse countries. And as I've said, I'm Swedish, I live in Sweden, so probably he is living somewhere around Scandinavia. And he has gotten a new son called Atreus. And as I have understood it, this will be not exactly a co-op game, but I assume Atreus will be part of combat in some way. I assume it's a little bit like in what was called Ghost of Sparta, one of the PS Vita games, or even think it initially was released on PlayStation Portable, where Kratos' brother Deimos was in the game, and in some of the fights, maybe it was just the last boss fight, can't remember, I haven't played that game in years, but you could shout commands at Deimos so he could help you out in combat, and I assume there's something similar going on with Atreus in this game. But I read something about the game that Kratos has to teach Atreus how to become a god, and Atreus has to teach Kratos how to become human. Something very dramatic.
God damn it, mate, I can hear the fireworks from
And that makes me a little bit hesitant. Because the God of War games have always had a good story. Don't get me wrong, and I enjoy a good story.
Be there as soon as I can.
But being sentimental isn't really Kratos' thing. That is something we have learned throughout that series. Because Kratos has one state of mind, and that is murderous rage. More or less all the time. In the first game he was a bit grievous about his family, and that has been his driving force through the entire game series. But I just hope that it doesn't turn into some kind of The Last of Us hack and slash game, because that would be very sad. And also I think it's, even though I am very psyched about it, I also think it's one of those series that they could have left and moved on. But I hope it will be a great game. It looks quite promising, quite interesting that they have skipped the Blades of Chaos or Blades of Athena or Blades of Exile. They changed the name of his swords in all the installments of the game for some reason. If I recall correctly, in the first game they chain the Blades of Chaos to his arms and say that you will never get rid of these. They will be stuck to you forever, and they are until the end of the game. Well, I think the chains are stuck, but the blades get switched out. But I'm not gonna focus on that right now. Instead, we're gonna focus on this combat sequence that is quite hard. And I think it's right now where I do... Yes. If I may say so myself, and I may, because this is my channel, that is the best headshot I have pulled off ever. Because that was a blind shot at a turret, and in some way, I have no idea how, I managed to get a bullet in between the shields over the barrel and hit him straight in the face. And that is an amazing shot. Very much to do with luck, but I'm still pleased, and it's on video, so hooray for me. It's one of those things that usually never happens when someone watches. You know, when you do that perfect thing and you have no way at all of proving that you've done it. So you can tell your friends you're really hyped and they're like, yeah, whatever. Prove it. Picture so it didn't happen. Well, I have this on video. But this fight, which I was gonna talk about, is very hard, as you can see from the footage. I've been talking about everything except this game for quite a while now. But the thing is, there are two waves of enemies in this fight. The first one is when you start, as you saw. And when you take out the first wave, the second wave will spawn in immediately. If you're really fast, and it's a bit like how this fight is designed. If you move up to the turret really fast, if you're close to it when you take out the first wave, you can man the turret and more or less instantly kill the second wave. Because you can see it has, as all turrets in these games have an extreme high rate of fire. Its damage output, as crushing goes, that is something that has been consistent throughout this series. It doesn't have a very big damage output when they point it towards you. But the high rate of fire makes it a real threat. And that, in combination with enemies using assault rifles, that is a recipe for chaos and destruction. So do not underestimate it. But on crushing, it's really hard to push up to that turret, at least in my opinion. I didn't even try to go for it because I think it's too dangerous and there are no checkpoints in this battle. This is also one of those battles without checkpoints. I think they could have put in one between wave 1 and 2, in all fairness, but for some reason they decided not to. So what I do in this fight, I stay behind these two pillars, because enemies always throw grenades. We all know this. You will see that also coming up later on in this chapter. But behind those pillars you are safe from the turret. That's the only good thing about the turret. It can swivel on its little pivot. But they cannot start unscrewing it from the platform and start moving it around battlefield, because that would be a real shitstorm. So stay behind those pillars, never expose yourself to the turret, because, as I said, it doesn't have the highest damage output, but just by sheer attrition it can take you out, and also in combination with all the enemies firing at you, and they do not have low damage outputs. And we all know that. If you have gotten this far in the game on this difficulty, that is probably something you have experienced. And now I was manning the turret because I wasn't quite sure if there would be a third wave. I was hoping that there would be a third wave, just so I could use it. But nope, not so lucky. But you can see I could swivel it around and aim it towards this area where all the enemies came from. So you can use it. If you're really quick, go up to the turret and kill them all. Spawn kill them instantly. And this fight out here, there are two enemies over to my right. And I'm gonna try and use the cover trick. You saw a little transition there. I didn't die on these first two. Actually, I think I died going over to that platform because the enemies on the other side spawned in. And this is where the game dropped me off. And that is also something odd. In the fight with the turret, there are no checkpoints. In this fight, there is at least one, maybe even two. Because I died going over, you saw a transition right there, and you will see another transition up here. Coming up right now. Because I died on these guys as well, once. And for some reason, the game decided to spawn me in on this platform once again. So I think there are... No, wait, that makes sense. There is one checkpoint up on this platform. Forget what I said. Anyway, this fight is quite easy, actually. The only guy that poses a threat on the other side is the guy with the assault rifle. The first guy I took out that's lying dead by the feet of the sniper closest to me. Because now what we have left on the other side are 2 guys with sniper rifles and 1 guy with a pistol. But the pistol guy is so focused on throwing his grenades at me, so he doesn't think about firing his gun. And snipers, we all know how snipers work. And the thing is, they don't. They don't like to do work. So focus on the guy with the gun, because he will most probably throw grenades at you. And just because I said that, he will probably just shoot at you. But those crates I was sitting behind, those ammo crates, they are bulletproof. They cannot be destroyed. So if you take him out, the snipers will not pose a problem. You have a sniper rifle. I think there are at least 1 or maybe even 2 rifles right there, so you can restock on ammo if you for some reason don't manage to take them out. But the guy throwing grenades, he will be the problem. And we get up this far. Don't move up from this platform until the second wave spawns in. Because I've talked about that, I think I talked about that in the previous chapter, that ledges are amazing in this game. Because as you can see, he's throwing lots of grenades. Most of them, or all of them, except for the last one, landed on the platform right in front of my fingers. If you're not an idiot like me, which you most definitely aren't, just press circle and drop down, and that grenade won't hit you. The other thing that can happen is that they will overshoot the platform and it will land below you, like the last grenade did. And then you see what happens, because it landed beneath me and I was so far away from it, so its blast radius couldn't kill me. Even though I took some damage, it wasn't enough to kill me, and while I'm waiting for Nate's health, or for Nate's... what's it called? Ah, never mind. While I'm waiting for Nate to regain his health, I have all the time in the world, because they are firing from a far distance. They will hopefully not throw another grenade. But I'm hanging from a ledge, so they cannot hit you. They cannot hit your fingers and kill you that way, thank God for that. Because that would be terrible game design. And for once, Sam was being helpful. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, at least I hope I did, but it's worth saying again. If Sam or any other companion you happen to have with you at the time being, if they grab an enemy like that, you can either go up and do a combo or a duo takedown, or whatever you call it, where you take them out together. There is a trophy for doing it that I think it's 10 times. I think it's called Wingman. But also, if you shoot the enemy while Sam or Elena or Sully or whoever is holding them, they will die in one shot. That is also a consistent. So it's a really great thing when your companion grabs enemies. When they do it, be quick and fire. And if you don't do it, I think your friend will kill them eventually. But it's a quick way to get rid of an enemy, and also, hopefully, your AI companion will help you again. And this is something I know I talked about in chapter 8, that Sam sometimes is completely useless. Most of the time he is actually completely useless, because you saw right there he stood more or less in the way. So I had to expose myself quite a bit. And that is something that occurs from time to time in this game. That is something you need to get used to, that Sam will get in your way. A lot of times. But here's a really good thing. This is a way to keep him at bay. Because he was standing towards the wall and I stood in front of him. And since the clipping works the way it does in this game, if I'm standing in front of him like that, he cannot move out because he clips on Nate. So if you want him to stay a bit more passive, keep me in the background, just go up and just go up to him and spoon him towards a wall. But we are getting close to the end of this chapter. We are not quite there yet. We are actually going into what I think to be one of the hardest fights in this entire chapter, and it's quite interesting because it doesn't contain a lot of enemies. And that was a horrible thing right there. Let's admit it. Because what I think should have happened when I slid down that gravel wall is that you're supposed to land on that guy and do an instant takedown. Didn't work quite well for me. I decided to jump to the left. And for some reason the game just saved my ass. That should have been a death state. Because one of them has a China Lake, which is a really good game. Really good game. Really good gun in this game. It's the grenade launcher. And it landed right next to my feet, and for some reason I survived. I have no idea why. The game decided to show mercy. And I must say, when I was recording this, by the way, this is the fight I was talking about. What you should do here is try to move up to the right. Do a circular motion. That's what I think works best in this fight. Try to flank the guys on the other side from the right side. But what was I saying? Yes, the China Lake. And the game showing mercy. From time to time during the recording of this walkthrough, I ended up in situations just like that, with the grenade landing next to my feet. So I actually have gone in. Whenever that happened, I paused the game most of the time and checked to make sure that the game hadn't lowered the difficulty. That is something I've mentioned before, that on my first playthrough on this game on this difficulty, for some reason the game had lowered the difficulty on I think it was chapter 20 or something. I don't know why it did that. I don't know if it's an automatic thing or if it was a glitch in one of the previous versions. Because I can't remember ever getting asked by the game, do you want to play on a lower difficulty? I do remember that I died a lot on that chapter. But I don't know why it lowered the difficulty without asking me. But whenever that has happened during this recording run, I paused the game and went in to check so it hadn't happened again. So sometimes I will or things will happen that may make you think that this can't be on crushing, but it is. I promise you that. Everything in this game is recorded on crushing difficulty. Just sometimes the game decides to be merciful, which I'm grateful for. Also, here, this is the last fight of this chapter. There is a guy coming in from the left, and there is also a guy in front of you. The guy on the left should be your main focus point, that guy. Screw the guy on the other side of the chasm. He is not a problem. This guy will end your fucking day and ruin your day. He's the type of guy that will piss in your coffee and not tell you, so you're wondering why it tastes like shit. Which is a weird thing if someone's pissed in. You know what I mean. Anyway, first focus on the guy on the left. When he's dead, go for the guy on the other side of the chasm. And here I actually came across one of the cheapest deaths during this entire run. Because you saw the transition right there. I slid down here. I went in, I got my grappling hook out. I started swimming towards the plane. And this is something I want to warn you about. Because I died in mid-water swimming to the plane. So when you're swimming, make sure to swim underwater until you get right next to the plane and just start mashing the X button, and Nate will grab it and you will end chapter 9. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.